So with the post-patch now actually fully engaged into the game, I thought we'll run through my tactics. So we're going to start off by building the team. It is a pretty standard team by any means. We've obviously got Courtois and net. Our right back is going to be Carfu eventually, but at the moment it is still Loriente. I am ashamed to admit, but he's doing well. He still does really well. Then in the centre backs, we've got an easy one because we have got Maldini, and then going next to him, the very, very trusted Gold VVD. Now into the left back, it is a standard amongst a lot of people. It's got to be our lady backer. Again, solid shout. Now into the centre mid, this is where it steps up in terms of rating. We have got Putiella's Team of the Year as a very, very lucky buy. Well, lucky pack, in fact, over Team of the Year. And then going next to her, we have an SPC complete in Zidane. Now, I'm still kind of looking, because Putellas is incredible going forward, as well as having the 5-5 as well as Zidane. I kind of want like a Hullet next to him, but I didn't really fancy the Winter Wildcard. I really want the base or anything higher. So that's going to be one of my options, or potentially like a Team of the Year Vieira. That would be a suitable partner in this point. Over on the left-hand side, purely for the factor that I just didn't really have a solid left wing, we've gone with Georgie Best that can change over there. Over the right-hand side, we are still rocking our boy Garincha. And then up front, I've been testing a few, because obviously the first one, if you saw, was always going to be Mbappe. He'll be on the right-hand side. And then next to him, I've been testing a few different options. When it comes to an absolute top of the top, I don't really have a secondary option, so we've been kind of going through a Forlan and then also an Eto. So Forlan predominantly is normally my super sub, but I have tried him in the kind of end game at the minute because he has got that power shot. So I would go back with Eto really as the kind of quick step merchant. So in terms of subs, I kind of go with the standard. So like I said, I'll go with Forlan just as that power shot. If I'm noticing that they're giving me a lot of space, Forlan's going to be absolutely perfect in that sort of environment. The power shot is incredible. If then obviously I'm not looking to get rid of Mbappe, we're kind of going for a winger, at least maybe one or two. We have got a lovely lady in Hansen on one of the sides. She's just absolutely phenomenal at getting forward. And then the other side, don't know if she's left wing or right wing. Oh no, I know who it is now. I was like, I know I've got another one, and it is going to be the brand new Future Stars Rodman. Beautiful pace. Both of them can be super subs for Garincha and Best. If I have to go all out constant pressure, they are going to be great substitutions with the pace there. In terms of centre mids, this is where it kind of gets a little bit iffy. Again, it depends on what sort of game I'm having. Realistically, Bernardo Silva is going to be a great shout there. Very cheap, a nice option. But whether I actually change him is very sporadically. We have Pinner there just in case. Again, I do have Seedorf at the moment, but really, I'm quite happy with Putellas and also Zidane, as they predominantly do a lot of the work. Now, in terms of what I go for defending substitutions, it all depends on what the match is saying. So realistically, I'd look for our man Blanc. I've got the loan there, but I have got actual Blanc, just in case. We may even throw in a cheeky Trent, you never know. And then kind of the last one, I have had Martinez there, but to be honest, he hasn't really played. We could throw in a Romero. It's just an extra body, just in case. Obviously, Trent and Martinez might swap, or Pina might come off as well, because realistically, I'm only taking one of these off at a time. So then, obviously, we go to the formation. So I'll have 4 different formations that we're going with. So we're going to start with the attacking, because I don't do them in order of what they technically should be. But what I've been kind of running is a 4-4-2 in this formation. So what I'll show you is, if I go for the 4-4-2 to start with, it is here. So what I'll have Georgie Best obviously there, Mbappe, Putellas and Garincha there. So that's just the standard team lineup, as we already know. In terms of instructions, this is where it gets a bit interesting with depending on what you're looking at. So what I'll have for backer is I will have overlap. This is predominantly mainly one player. So if you find that your right back is, for instance, somebody like a Frimpong, I would definitely have him over any left back. If the other side is potentially Teo, then I'd do that one as well, but I'd only choose one at a time. So at the minute, back has got the whipped pass or whipped cross, so I will go with her. And then the other side will obviously be stay back wall attack. Into the midfield, again, depending on what you're looking at, each side is to their own. I will obviously go for a more defensive and a more offensive one. So obviously both of them will be cover centre. What I will have for Putellas is stay back whilst attack, and then I will have balance on the centre mid here. Normally I would maybe go with get forward or have something more attacking in line, but I found that especially since the new patch, the cutbacks definitely have been taken off a little bit. So I might even have the get in the box forward or stay on the edge of the box just for them cutbacks to come across. But unfortunately that has kind of just depleted a little bit. You can still get them most definitely, but they are definitely a lot worse than what they were. Now in terms of wingers, what would go for here, and it all depends again on what you fancy. Normally I would just keep them on basic. There is very little. I would sometimes go with come back on defense, just purely to have that extra kind of safety zone really. There's no other way for it, but again, I've kind of played with both and there's some change, and definitely when I'm going against a better opponent, you definitely can tell they use the wings, they spread the play a lot more, so sometimes having them on the back will always be perfect. When it comes to the strikers, again, we are not looking at stay forward too much of the time. What I tend to do is normally have maybe someone like an Eto on kind of like a getting behind. I find that sometimes does work with a player that doesn't necessarily have the rapid. The quick step's going to be perfect as obviously he will reach his max speed first. Mbappe's better with the ball, and obviously Mbappe is absolutely broken in himself, but I would keep them both balanced so they coming up and down. I found that personally works incredible after the post patch. So really what you've got is a full back line of just defense. I will then potentially have back as somebody who can run in. What you could also do with that overlap, it doesn't necessarily work with Garrincha, but if you was to have him potentially on, it's getting the box for the cross, what I would find is that I'm having 3 options in the box when back is doing the overlap with Best. Best covers the left back for a little bit. Again, you've got to be very patient with that build up. You can't just go in and just let back loose because the counter attack is definitely becoming more prominent in this game. So normally what I would have with Garrincha especially is obviously going in there. What I was finding is potentially you've got someone like a Kolo Muani, you've got, I believe, a Boniface future star that can play the right mid role. So instead of having him up top, you've got an extra right mid that maybe doesn't necessarily option or open the option for a wing play, but I found that the in the middle is definitely a great place to start. So what that means is I will definitely be working with Putellas and Zidane as the kind of forerunners. Best and Garrincha are holding the wing. If I can't progress anymore, you come back to Putellas, you go back to Bacca, back to Best, overlap, and that's where then Kolo Muani or Boniface would be pushed forward. As I don't have any of them, I'm having to kind of go around that a little bit, and Garrincha definitely has the skills on the ball, so I'm constantly more using a passing game than necessarily a crossing every single time. So in terms of the tactics side of stuff, most of the time I would go with balance 100% of the time. I will go down to 45 width on this, but what I have been seeing recently, I've only just come back down to about a 45 to 55 width. I've been finding the 71 works again. Not necessarily as broken as before, but like I said previously with the counter-attacking, it is definitely become more prominent after everything else has been patched. It doesn't mean that it's crazy, but I'm finding myself always being on that kind of last man challenge, and it's just annoying. So I went back to the 71 and found that it dealt with it a lot better. Again, it's not going to completely fix it. If you are just struggling with that side of the game, then you need to drop your defenders back a little bit more, maybe start from there, but this is just one formation out of 4. I will obviously go with the balance, and then I'll go with the direct passing, and what I normally do here is drop this down to 40, as like I said, I like to compress it in a little bit. You could play around with going down to 30, but I found anywhere between 35 and 45 normally is the sweet spot for me, as obviously I don't want to be too compact, as that requires a hell of a lot of left stick dribbling. What I do with players in the box in this one, I would just keep it at 5, and then corners and free kicks just depend on what you want. Normally I will go, I tend to go 3 and 1 really, because free kicks, if I'm in the area to shoot, I'll shoot. If obviously the corners, I normally like to pass it, so whether I'd rather do 2 or 3, all depends on how I'm feeling. And that's going to be the first set. That's kind of my post-patch sort of formation and tactics. When it comes to then the tried and tested, we obviously have got the lovely, if your team's looking like this, then I have the place for you. Head over to U7Buy for all your coin needs. They're cheap, fast and reliable, but make sure to use JT11 at the checkout for 6% off all of your coin orders. The 4-3-2-1. So with this one, it all depends again how you're running, but what I normally do is I would go something along the lines of that. Yes, Eto's there, Garincha's there. So what I do here, even though if I'm finding that I'm being overrun completely, I would potentially sub off Garincha for maybe more of a midfielder. This is a perfect example of where Bernardo Silva can kind of come in, because he can play that wing role to some extent, but you don't want him necessarily to pick up that position. So if I'm playing a 4-4-2, Bernardo Silva's better in the middle, but on the wing, he's going to find himself in a bit of trouble. In this formation, he's kind of pushed in a little bit, and then on the offense, he kind of runs up, but then kind of goes wide a little bit more, which is perfect. With the tactics on this one, again, I'd go balance. I'd normally stick with a 45, and I'd go with the 71 with this as well. Again, it was all preference on the width. I just find that that works really well. Balance, direct passing is always the standard whenever it comes to a balanced formation. This isn't an ultra attacking like it's meant to be. This is just what I like as another chance of a formation to kind of scramble an opponent. You will find that in the higher divisions that people have so many different tactics, and suddenly Mbappe's making a run from the left, but 5 minutes ago it was coming up from the right. They will be changing dependent on how they feel you're playing. With the width, obviously, again, I wouldn't necessarily go down too much with this. I'd probably go down towards more the 45 on this one. Players in the box, again, I will go with 5. And then again with corners. With this one, personally, I go to 2 and 1. But again, it all goes down to your formation and what you prefer. Instruction sides then. So again, with this one, what I will do is I'll go overlap on both. But I will go with the stay back whilst attack as well, so I'll have to manually do it because I don't want to necessarily go too far up with them. I want to keep them as a defense option as well. Putellas definitely will be on the stay back, as well as Zidane, and then Garincha will definitely be in that sort of side of cover the wing, but then also balance going forward. With obviously Putellas and also Zidane, we'll have the cover centre, and then we will have stick there, and I believe normal there, stay back there. So both of them will be the exact same in covering the centre. So it plays very similar to the 4-4-2, but then the attack just goes in on absolute madness. Because what we have here, we have stay forward on Mbappe. He will be on mixed attacks, as I do like to have him just kind of chilling up front, because naturally he works it really, really well. I'll have balance on both of these, and then normally what I'll have with kind of an Eto, or I'll go with Best, depending on which position I want to put him in. I can change them if I'm finding maybe Eto's just not working for me in the match. I will swap them over and kind of change them. I will kind of have the getting behind on one of them, so I've always got that option. And then if I'm throwing the overlap on top, you'll find that Best and Eto potentially run forward, one of them at the very minimum, and then someone like Ibaka will push forward and get the through ball, and then you can almost play the 1-2 for obviously the cross as well. Again, it is all down to your preference there, but I've always found the 4-3-2-1 to be just a safe bet to go to. And then we have my final formation on all-out attack. Because realistically, if you wanted to go with kind of a defense one, you could potentially obviously go with kind of a bit more of a drop down in width. You could drop down the kind of depth if you're looking for maybe more of a counter attack. Maybe if you go down to about 40, you go with obviously, where is it, 35. You'd go with drop back whilst attack and obviously go balance. You want to obviously go direct passing. The width could be a little bit more to obviously help you get out a little bit. Then obviously players in the box, I'd go with 3. Again, with corners and free kicks, if I'm on a drop back, I will keep them all back as much as possible. I would obviously go with a standard formation I'm used to, and I would stick with the 4-4-2 on this. I'd obviously put Eto up front. I don't know why I changed him with Mbappe. And again, I've just moved him back. Go Georgie Best, Putellas across, Garincha in here. So then obviously with them, I would predominantly just keep everybody back as much as possible. So them to a stay back, no overlap whatsoever. I would obviously keep these two back and just have them as kind of like the CDM, so I've almost got a back 6. Then obviously with Garincha, they will keep balanced, but what I would have them is stay wide. And what you do there, so that's them, and then what we'd have is one Potentially, oh no, that's Mbappe, isn't it? So I'd have him as stay forward. I'd have him as mixed attack. I'd then have Eto'o as the comeback on defense, and I want him to be the target player to pick it up to Mbappe. This is very it depends. I don't use this as often as normal, because normally if I'm gonna lose a match, I'm gonna lose a match. I'm not necessarily going in as a pro player from this, but in terms of kind of just trying something out, maybe going on that little bit of a counter could work. If you're offering the attack to them, then you can obviously counter them on the wing. Obviously, if you've got good wingers, that is going to be an essential part of it. But then if you want the all-out attack, this is just where I have a bit of fun with it, to be honest. I literally just go out with 100 on the width, would then obviously go really high on obviously the depth. You could just stick it to 71. I tend to just take it to 80, to be honest. We'd obviously have the constant pressure on. We'd have the fast build-up, and we'd also have the forward runs? Yeah, direct pass in possession. Yeah, forward runs. Width-wise on this, again, would just kind of keep it normal with that. Players in the box would take it all the way up to 8. And to be honest, with corners and free kicks, it just stays the same for me. I'll just go 1 and 1. Formation-wise, we will stick with, obviously, the 4-4-2 again. So this is going to be a really attacking one. It is like last minutes of the game. You're losing by 1. There is no problem with attacking. If you concede, you concede. It's not a big deal. So obviously, I'd keep them as the same as normal, change them over, Putellas and obviously Zidane, but it would be very attacking on the instructions. So for instance, I will have the join the attack with Baka, join the attack there, would obviously have the overlap and overlap as well. Centre-backs will keep them as normal anyway. We'll obviously have the stay forward on this side, stay forward on this side. We'd obviously have get forward. And I normally would put them on balance for Putellas just to offer that one support. And obviously cover centre, because that's going to be perfect. But if I've got one already forward, it's kind of, she'll already come up anyway, what I found anyway, especially if you have somebody with a high attacking work rate, works perfectly. With obviously this, I'd have both of these getting behind, because what we're doing then is if we've got stay central, stay forward, we'd obviously have the Garrincha and Best running the channels. We'd have Zidane and then Putellas going in almost a set of 2. Mbappe and Eto'o will be getting in behind. The left back and right back should be pushing up as well. 2 centre backs will obviously stay as they are, because naturally they're not going to run up on the attack as well. But at least then you are just trying to get the ball. There is no problem with missing the ball, conceding. This is a last Hail Mary to get the ball back. You want to be going quite quickly with it. And the big thing with the obvious width is more the fact that you find in a lot of people at the moment are switching, especially on the top tier. You'll find lots of people left back to right back, left mid to right mid, just switching play to confuse the AI, and obviously then take a little bit of time for you to get there. With the width, it's already going to be there. Like I say, there's going to be holes left, right and centre. This is predominantly used once you have the ball or have won the ball back and you are absolutely going for it. They're my formations. Let me know down below if you've got any others or different formations you use, and we'll give them a test and try out.